My name is Chris Brosius, and I'm the program manager for the West Maui Mountains Watershed Partnership. The Watershed Partnership manages about 50,000 acres, and it spans from the Wailuku side all the way to the Lahaina side, 360 degrees around the mountain. It's important to manage West Maui in particular, and it's a conservation focus because the land provides the key water resource for our island. As much as 70% of our domestic water supply comes from this landscape. There's so much to love about the native ecosystems in West Maui. First of all, the mountain itself, it's got extremely variegated terrain. It has upwards of 170 identified rare and endangered species, a spectrum of forest types and ecological niches, some of which are found nowhere else on Earth. There are many threats to West Maui's forest, but things like invasive tree species such as strawberry guava, for example. We also are concerned about feral ungulates and diseases that might spread. We're doing a lot of planning to try to anticipate what these threats are going to mean to our watershed, not only presently, but in the future. We have transects, upwards of 34 of them throughout the entire watershed, that monitor the spread of these invasive species and gives us a good handle on how these threats that I'm talking about are impacting the forested ecosystem. As a watershed manager, I use climate information to help plan and predict how climate change may actually affect the threats that we're concerned about. There is some data being collected throughout the watershed, especially on rainfall. West Maui Ridge to Reef has several precipitation gauges along the gradient of one of the watersheds in West Maui. And we're hopeful that information like that will help us interpret how rainfall is changing. In my lifetime, I can see the predictions that were made 20 years ago coming to fruition. Climate change is something that is present today. So I would like people to understand, I would like our children and their parents and their grandparents to understand that it is happening and that we really do have an opportunity to do things differently, to learn from the mistakes that we've made in the past. Climate really matters for the conservation in Maui because if we don't do something today, our native ecosystems may not be there for us in the future. Wildfire is one of those issues and threats that really spans the whole watershed system, both Mauka to Makai. Its ability to shift the landscape from a forested cover to virtually denuded earth is dramatic. When fires come through, the forest cover isn't there to diminish the erosive power of precipitation. And that water then hits the bare earth, and the ash and the sediment that is now uncovered runs to the ocean environment at a higher rate, creating unbalanced ecosystems within the marine environment.
And it's preventing the coral from performing photosynthesis and can settle out and completely kill the coral in that area. My name's Tova Callendar, and I work as the West Maui Watershed Coordinator in support of the goals of the West Maui Ridge to Reef initiative. From the top of the mountain here in Pu'ukukui down to the outer edge of the reef. You have to look from the ridge to the reef if we're really going to understand what the sources of land-based pollution are that are impacting the ocean and figure out a plan for addressing them. I personally love getting in the water, and in some places it's become depressing to get in and look at what's going on. We're seeing declines of the health of the coral in the ocean. Coral bleaching was devastating to the health of our reefs, and it's large areas. You have to swim out a very far way in Uluwatu now to get to a part of the reef that's even somewhat reasonable. It strengthens the resolve we need to have within the Ridge to Reef initiative to try and deal with those local stressors because the clock is ticking on the reef. In a natural state, a watershed functions to carry the water down through the mountains when it rains, infiltrates in, and some amounts coming out of the coast, and what's coming out of the stream is more gradual, and it is generally not bringing sediment in at a quantity that's creating a problem. In West Maui, we have changed the landscape significantly over the last couple hundred years. With agriculture, we've cut our mountaintops, we've pushed the soil into the gulches and streams. In the urban landscape, We have built impervious roads, buildings everywhere. So instead of having the natural system clean and infiltrate the water through wetlands, we now have an accumulation of pollution in our runoff. And so we're now at a point where we're realizing what we do on land affects the ocean. The top stressors we've identified in West Maui that are affecting coral reef health here include nutrients, sediment, urban pollutants, and contaminants are likely to play a role. So this means everything from the waters coming from the roads. You can see in the setting here, we have a lot of uses converging, and each of those are contributing some pollution footprint. The Ridge to Reef initiative is trying to address these sources of land-based pollution in a lot of different ways. Some of these are large scale. We've been looking at retrofits to dams that are currently allowing fine silt to come through. We've done projects on agricultural roads to install best management practices that direct the water out of the gulch where it will make its way to the ocean. Some projects are happening at a smaller scale, such as the rain garden we have here in Wahikuli Wayside Park. The idea here is that you can put a shallow, intentionally placed basin backfilled with compost and native plants that allows water from a given drainage area to infiltrate and get cleaned out rather than running polluted straight to the ocean. Climate matters to me because we are standing at a period in time where the future looks different than the past. And if we don't get on board with understanding that we're entering a new future that we haven't envisioned, we're not going to be prepared. And we need to build resilience, and we need to protect what we love. We as humans are really good at thinking about what we know and how things are right now, but we don't really excel at imagining a different future. I think that's where we are right now. I think that when we lose hope, we lose the ability to act. And so I have to remain hopeful that we can wake up and take action now and, take care of what we love. So it will be here. Climate matters for conservation on Maui because we're seeing changes now in all the natural systems that we work in. And climate is a driver of it all.